Soundcast.
This is a Village Soundcast Network original production.
This is Less Than Live with Kate or Die, a bi-weekly podcast about comics from all angles. I'm going to talk to you about what I'm reading and doing in the industry, as well as interviewing some of my friends and favorite creators. So come along with me on this journey into geek culture.
Ho, ho, ho! Happy holidays to you and yours!
On today's show, I've returned to the frigid lands of Canada just in time for the holidays. I talk about all the new comics we were blessed with last week and list a butt-ton of comic gift suggestions for the season, then chat with editor-in-chief of the Mary Sue, Jill Pantozzi. Well, welcome back, everybody. We're here for what is probably going to be our last show of 2014. No one knows yet because we can't see the future, although we just keep trying. I'm here. I'm back in the frozen north. I'm in Canada again, back from the warm embrace of Los Angeles, and not to fear, I'm going back in like 3 weeks. I can't stay away. I'm home for a little bit to catch up on the enormous mountain of work that has piled up while I was frolicking at Disneyland, and that's been great because not only am I at home working from my office, but they are tearing out the bathroom next to my office. So that's just been a lovely time. I haven't had a ton of stuff come out while I've been back, but the latest things of mine out in the world are, again, Edward Scissorhands #2, Bravest Warriors #27, and Fraggle Rock #3. So if any of those weren't mentioned last time, they're out and you can buy them. Fraggle Rock only has one issue to go, and then we have Jake and I are working on all the stuff for the hardcover, which is going to be coming out in the spring. And I'm definitely going to have that for Emerald City Comic Con. And that'll be really, really awesome. It's been cool. It's the first time that I've been able to really work on like the back matter for a book and kind of doing that whole like, I'm a writer, here's how bit, which is crazy to me because I feel like I stumbled into all of this, but it's really neat. One thing that did come out since my return and since our last episode is Jeremy, boyfriend extraordinaire, who was the guest host of our last episode, and I were on Bizarre States from The Nerdist. So we talked to Andrew Bowser and Jessica Chobot about ghost stories and our experiences with the supernatural. So you can find that on the Nerdist's page under Bizarre States. So if you can't get enough of listening to my dulcet tones here on my own podcast, you can listen to me alongside several other people talking about spookums. So that's real neat, and I'm hoping that we're going to do some more stuff with them. Jeremy and I are cooking up some ghost stories. So that should be really fun. It's the world of work is doing that thing where it ramps up real fast before the holidays and then everything dies for like a month. So I'm really looking forward to that and to heading back to LA in early January. So no events or anything lined up yet, but I'm sure next episode I'll have something to catch you up on. There is a lot in this week's comics I'm recommending. Basically go through every single thing that I read this year and tell you who to buy it for. So let's get started.
What is Kate reading?
What am I reading now?
What is Kate reading?
What am I reading now? So, after a couple of weeks where it felt like not a lot of new single issues were coming out, last week seemed to have pretty much everything. December 10th is what I'm talking about, and it saw the debut of a comic I have been looking forward to for months and months and months, although it feels like years, Bitch Planet, which is a name I'm so excited to get to say and have an excuse to with customers in the store and on the internet and basically everywhere. Bitch Planet is the brainchild of Kelly Sue DeConnick, and it is illustrated by Valentine DeLandro. And I've been hearing about this comic for a very long time. Kelly Sue is involved with the Valkyries, the group that I run for women who work in comic stores, and she's been talking with us about it for a long time. And Kelly Sue is a guest at these Valkyrie breakfasts that we do at conventions pretty frequently. She tries to come whenever she can, which is amazing because she's such a hero for so many of us, and not to get gooey. But so she's been talking about this series for a long time, and what it basically is a story about dystopian future where women who are deemed non-compliant are sent to an auxiliary prison planet. So basically every woman who is seen as not fitting a desirable standard, whether she be a person of color, whether she's overweight or gay or defiant in any way, and just basically doesn't conform to the rigid standards of what the patriarchy would like to see women to be, they're shipped off. And so they're in this horrible situation, and there's a lot of violence and fighting, and there's a lot that we don't know. That's just kind of what's set up from the first issue, but it's basically a giant feminist middle finger, and I mean the cover even has a giant middle finger on it, so it's not an exaggeration. I love this comic. I love that the comments and the negative reviews of this comic completely justify the existence of it. It is so awesome and so aggressive, and just really, really great. And Kelly Sue has more guts than a lot of us ever do to make something like this. And I know it took her a long time to get it out, but goddamn, it's a real piece of work. So check that out. The first issue is just out, and who knows when the second one will be, because you never know with Image. It's a fun game of surprises. So that came out, and Southern Bastards #6 came out. We're just kind of getting into the second arc of that series, which is about the dirty South and football and, mob bosses of a kind. And it's a pretty crazy series. There's a huge shift right at the end of the first arc that I don't want to spoil for you, but reading it, you're just like, oh, okay, where is this? Where is it going now? Which I love, and it's always fun to be surprised by what you're reading. So definitely, like, if you were a kind of person who was into, I don't want to say True Detective because it's even like filthier than that. It's even more like rural American South, but it's really great. Like a real, like an HBO Friday Night Lights kind of. So definitely look into that. And Sex Criminals came out too. So it was a great week for going to the comic book store to say, hey, can I get Bitch Planet and Southern Bastards and Sex Criminals? And for me, also Teen Dog. So all of those things came out. The newest Sex Criminals is fantastic. It's got a whole riff on The Wicked and the Divine and Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey, who are good friends. And it's I don't want to spoil too much, but I never thought I would get to see a panel in a comic of Jamie McKelvey spray cleaning a strap-on. So if you are into that, check it out. That comic continues to be the best. Outside of all the comics that have swear words for titles, Afterlife with Archie #7 was out after a long wait. It seems to be a long wait in between these issues, but it started the new story arc, Betty R.I.P., so I guess we can guess how that's going to end. I'm completely in love with Afterlife with Archie. I've talked about it before, and I also really love the sister series, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, although I have no idea when the next issue is coming out because I started doing some extended research on that tonight, and no one could give me a set release date. Hopefully soon, because it's really great. But these series that are these kind of supernatural, really mature takes on the Archie universe could not be more up my alley. I'm a really big fan, and was so thrilled to see just this week announced that Archie is starting over. And I'm not sure if this is going to be digest size or it's probably going to be the regular comic size single issues, but it's relaunching, being written by Mark Waid and drawn by Fiona Staples. Mark Waid writes a ton of comics, but most recently and biggest, I guess he's known for Daredevil. And Fiona Staples is the artist on Saga. And she's a Canadian lady, so that rules. She's done a bunch of really great covers for Archie comics. So when I saw the solicitation for the Image, I was just like, oh, cool, Fiona Staples is doing another Archie cover. Didn't realize she was taking over as the artist. Archie is doing some of the coolest, freshest, most innovative stuff in comics right now, and keeps, being interesting and being something that I want to check out. So when that relaunches, which I think is going to be early spring, don't quote me on that for sure, but you can find a lot about it online. There's an article in like Rolling Stone or something about it. But I guess they're just going to be modernizing the universe, which, they've been doing in various different ways in different series like Life with Archie and Afterlife with Archie and the Kevin series to a certain extent. But I can't wait to see where it's going to go. And Archie Comics, I'm here when you want me to write Josie and the Pussycats as a Riot Girl band with a lot of gay undertones. I'm waiting. I'll take your calls. The Adventure Time number 34 was out, and that is almost the conclusion of Ryan North's run on this series. Adventure Time is, the big sister series to Bravest Warriors. So it's been really fun, kind of working and having Ryan's comics come out at the same time as mine, because I've been a big fan of Ryan North for many years. He is a wonderful person, and his run has been great. It's ending with number 35, and he's being replaced by the team of Chris Hastings, who's the writer for Dr. McNinja and also A Handsome Gentleman, and Zachary Sterling, who illustrated both of my Adventure Time graphic novels, so that rules. And I can't wait to see where that's going to go. Ryan's moving on to do The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl for Marvel, which looks amazing. It's going to be illustrated by Erica Henderson, who I've liked for years and is just a wonderful person and does the most amazing friend fan art. She just does fan art of people that she knows, and it's really amazing. On top of recently she's been posting a whole bunch of different Wonder Woman costumes throughout the years. She's been looking through this encyclopedia of a history of Wonder Woman's costumes and been posting them online. So that's Erica Henderson, and I think she's usually under Erica Fails on the internet. And so that's what I've been picking up. If you're not sure what to buy, here's some comics you should try. I put together, and I'm going to try and get through this quickly because there are so many titles to get through. I went through and I started looking for my favorite books that came out this year, and it became a list so extensive that I had to start cutting it down, and then thought, well, even though I'm not really in the comic book store this year, it's almost Christmas, and people might want some recommendations because it's the most common thing this time of year working in a comic shop in retail is, I have a kid, what do I buy them? Or my girlfriend reads comics, I don't know what to get her. So I separated this into a couple of sections. They're non-gender specific because screw that noise. But I'm going to start with kids comics. A lot of really, really awesome stuff came out this year, and I'm going to start it off with Lumberjanes, even though the trade paperback collection is not out yet. And it's kind of the only thing I'm going to mention that's not in trade paperback, because I find single issues are kind of a hard sell in terms of presence. So almost all of these things are either in a graphic novel or collected into a trade paperback from single issues. So you can buy a volume of it, which is a much better gift, I think, a lot of the time than, single issue comics. I don't like saying floppies. Anyway, Lumberjanes. You can find the issues that are out now, and there are several. And it is kind of crazy that it's not coming out in a collected edition until April. But getting a bundle of those is really, really awesome. 5 best friends at summer camp fighting monsters. I know that it's the best. And obviously, it's especially awesome for girls, but it's just a great adventure story. So check that out. For younger kids or anybody interested in kind of space and adventure stories, there were 2 really great, they're series of books really, but Zeta the Space Girl by Ben Hatke and Cleopatra in Space by Mike Mayhack. And those are both just really awesome. Definitely around, I would say the younger end of a Lumberjanes age, but if your kid is interested in another one of my recommendations, Smile or Sisters, the Raina Telgemeier books, it's kind of in the same vein, the same range. So those are both really awesome stories about girls in space. One of them happens to be Cleopatra. So those are really good. Again, Raina Telgemeier's books are all really awesome. Sisters came out this year, which is the sequel to her absolute smash bestseller, Smile, which I love the fact that her and The Walking Dead are constantly topping the best graphic novel sales. It's amazing. It's just the darkest. Anyway, it's just great. So her books are always wonderful. And if you've ripped through those, definitely try Faith Erin Hicks's books. She has quite a few. She's also from Halifax, so that's awesome. But she's got a collection called Superhero Girl, which is about, a girl in college who has superhero powers, but really has to deal with the day-to-day life stuff. And she's got a lot of other series that both she's written and drawn and has illustrated for other people. She's got books, Nothing Can Possibly Go Wrong. Oh, my God. I wish I could remember them all. Bigfoot Boy, which she illustrated for another writer. Friends with Boys, which she wrote and illustrated, which is a really awesome story about homeschooling and ghosts. So those are really good. If you are interested in kind of the spooky end of things, or your kid is, I would say, or a friend's kid, and you like Friends with Boys, Anya's Ghost by Vera Brosgol is also really amazing. Vera worked on the Coraline movies and works at Leica Animation, and she is just fantastic. Kind of towards the other end of things, the Samurai Jack comics from IDW that are written by Jim Zub and illustrated by Andy Soriano are really, really great, top notch. And whether you were a fan of the series and think your kid would be into it, or, you know, the kid in your life loved the series or knows nothing about it, it's just a really awesome series. Fun action stuff, and they do a lot of really cool things with it. Silent issues and you know, just a lot of like having fun with the medium. So that is really cool. The Teen Titans Go comics are really awesome and a ton of fun. Super lively, and the show is animated in Halifax, or at least parts of it. So I'm gonna give that a shout out. There were 2 graphic novels this year, Battling Boy by Paul Pope, and then the follow-up, The Rise of Aurora West. And Battling Boy was written and inked, well, illustrated by Paul Pope. And, you know, it's about a kid who kind of comes from this godlike world down to a very dystopian place to fight the monsters. And he's got these different T-shirts that kind of give him different powers. And he's replacing this character that is supposed to be kind of the protector and the guardian of the city that he lands in, who is killed fairly unceremoniously by some bad guys. And The Rise of Aurora West is about the protector who's killed. It's about his daughter, and it is beautifully illustrated by David Rubin. And so they're just really, really awesome books, and they go great as a set. Last thing that I want to recommend for the youngsters is Primates by Maris Wicks, which is a story about, I talked about it on the podcast before, but it's a bunch of different researchers who worked with apes and chimps, including like Diane Fossey and Jane Goodall. And that's just a really awesome, you know, if you want to learn and read, a really great story. For the teens, for the in-betweens, not quite ready for swears and decapitation, but looking for a little bit more meat from their stories, I really love, I'm going to rip through these pretty fast, but you can look them up, and I'll put the list on the Tumblr later, on livecast.tumblr.com. But Young Avengers by Jamie McKelvey and Kieran Gillen is great and pretty easy. Well, sort of easy. Pretty easy to get into, even if you don't really know the backstory of Young Avengers. But it's awesome, it's super gay, and great. So if that is relevant to the person you are gifting to, awesome. It couldn't be better. The Miss Marvel series from Willow Wilson and Adrienne Alfona is fantastic. Rocket Girl by Brandon Montclair and Amy Reeder is a really awesome comic about a girl who is sent back from the future, where everyone's really young, like all the police detectives and superheroes and well, not really superheroes, but crime fighters are all like 15 and 16. So she's sent back to the 80s to kind of stop something from happening, and it's beautifully, beautifully drawn by Amy Reeder and a ton of fun. And there's a trade paperback of the first arc of that out now. I recommend it so much, even though it's one issue, but part of the Edge of Spider-Verse, which is this crazy thing that's going on in Spider-Man that I can't even begin to attempt to understand. It's the Gwen Stacy issue where Gwen Stacy is Spider-Woman, Spider-Girl, sorry. And it's such a good single issue that I mean, if you're throwing it in with other presents, it's just awesome. It's so fun to see Gwen Stacy as a spider character in one of the best costumes I've seen, designed by Robbie Rodriguez, who illustrates the issue. It's written by Jason Latour, who is just fantastic. So it's going to be an ongoing series, so it's a great primer to kind of get somebody interested in what I think is hopefully going to be an amazing series with an amazing female protagonist. So that's pretty cool. Gotham Academy by Becky Cloonan, Carl Kerschel, and Brendan Fletcher is, again, only a couple of single issues. I said I wasn't going to recommend them, but they're so good. So those are really, really cool. And yeah, again, if the person you're gifting for was a fan of things like, and I don't know if I want to say Vampire Academy, but spooky things taking place in boarding schools. that one's really, really great. And it kind of ties into it definitely ties into the Batman universe. So that's awesome. And then the last one in that section is In Real Life, which I talked about recently by Cory Doctorow and Jen Wang, which is just a really awesome look at online gaming and economic and social issues. So that one's really cool and like beautifully, beautifully illustrated. So if someone in that that you're trying to buy a gift for is a player of World of Warcraft, things like that, Dragon Age. It's a really cool book to check out. And yeah, the character designs are really awesome. An older teen, but someone who's not ready to read a comic like Sex Criminals that maybe has a throne made of dildos. You're on the precipice, but you can handle some stuff. I definitely recommend the She-Hulk collection. I'm so sad that series has been canceled, but I have hope that it will somehow revive in a new and even more magnificent form, like rising like the Phoenix. Charles Soule and Javier Polito's run on that is really wonderful. And yeah, there is a first book that you can get. Jennifer Walters as She-Hulk is awesome lawyer / crime fighter, and her interactions with Hellcat in it are a ton of fun. Seconds came out this year from Brian Lee O'Malley, which was sort of the follow-up to Scott Pilgrim. It's not related to Scott Pilgrim in any way, but it came out after it. What an awful recommendation. No, Seconds is really great, and it is about a girl who is running a restaurant and wants to open a new one and ends up accidentally waking up a mischievous and potentially vengeful sprite in her house that she ends up using to her own advantage in a probably not smart way. It's really, really gorgeous. Nathan Fairbairn's art or colors in it are just fantastic. So it's visually stunning. The Wicked and the Divine, which I talk about a lot. You've heard it. There's a first book of that out now. The Faust arc. I hate it. Kieran and his puns. But there's a book of that now, so you should definitely check it out. And the Storyteller Witches series is really cool. Those stand alone as single issues. They're really nicely published by Archaea, and each one is illustrated by somebody different, but each one is a self-contained illustrated fairy tale. So that is really cool. And Afterlife with Archie and Sabrina, because Afterlife with Archie at least is in a book. Last section is for the people who don't mind seeing some blood and titties. It's the mature section, and this has so many titles. Saga, witches, things with witches in them, like like Sabrina, but Pretty Deadly, Saga and Pretty Deadly, there's tons of books that you can, Saga's got 4 out as of this week, but Pretty Deadly's got the one collection, which is really great. Deadly Class, these are all Image titles. All the mature books that I love, almost all of them are from Image. So most of these you can get the first volume for $10, which is awesome. Deadly Class is about a school for assassins. Velvet is about a 40-year-old super spy who is framed for the murder of a James Bond type character, and she is amazing. The Fade Out, which is the newest Brubaker series, is an awesome Hollywood noir story. Rat Queens, the first collection you can get. It's been out for a while, but that series has been going through some tumultuous times, but they've just announced a new artist whose name, I'm so sorry, is it Stepan Sedjic? I'm sure that he's getting a ton of that right now, but he's going to be taking over art on the series, and I'm very excited because everything he's been posting looks amazing. So you can check that out and get the first little bit before the series really kicks off again with a guest issue from Tess Fowler, who's wonderful. So check that out. The Wake, Scott Snyder and Sean Murphy's underwater tale of 2 eras and beasts from beneath is really great. And Declan Shalvey, Warren Ellis, and Jordy Blair's Moon Knight, which Jeremy and I talked about last issue. That's so many comics. I'm so sorry, but it's the thing that I'm asked most often this time of year is, what do I get for somebody? Or what do I get for myself when I got this gift certificate? So listen back over and like slow it down, and maybe something will reach out to you. But look up any of those names. So many things you can find previews for online. And hopefully you find something that you or the person that you love or like but secretly love and you haven't told them yet. Get them comic books, because nothing's romantic like comics.
Are you ready for this? Kate needs a pension, needs a Porsche, needs some Prada. Kate wants a yacht to party with kaiju in the water. Needs some Gucci and Armani, she's a real fashion monster. So have a listen to our
case you haven't heard, Less Than Live has launched a Patreon. If you want to know what that is, good news, I'm going to tell you. A Patreon is a monthly subscription service or kind of a crowdfunding platform where if you like this show, you can support it financially with money, which is really great because this show it costs a little bit of money to make. We do it in a real recording studio, and the guys here make those amazing songs. And everything that I'm saying right now, you can watch me say better and with video on the actual Patreon page. It is patreon.com/lessthanlive. And there you can find out what it's all about. So pretty much you can choose an amount of money, if you're interested, to pledge to us monthly. And for those specific amounts of money at different levels and different amounts, you will get different rewards. You can get a voicemail message from me. You can subscribe to get a biannual package of goodies and swag. You can have advanced access to what guests we're going to have on the show, to ask questions, and these things are going to change and develop as we go along, and we're going to invent new things, and I just really want to make it kind of a cool, interactive, behind-the-scenes experience, and to show, people who do subscribe and who do support the show a little bit extra, and get you all involved. So you can check that out, again, at patreon.com, that's patron with an E in it, /lessthanlive, and donate a little bit of money. If you want. That'd be cool.
Kate's gonna interview you. Kate's gonna interview you now. She's gonna ask you questions. Kate's gonna interview you. Kate's gonna interview you now. This is the interview section.
So this week I am talking to one of my favorite nerdy ladies in comics. She has been formerly and sometimes is known as the Nerdy Bird on the internet. She's the editor-in-chief of the Mary Sue, a comics news website that I really, really enjoy, or geek culture news. It's all-encompassing. Jill Pantozzi. Hey, Jill.
Hey, how are you? I'm glad to be here.
I've realized that I've never said your last name out loud, and I'm hoping that I did it right.
You did, yeah.
I mean, I've said it out loud to other people, but
right, but you didn't say it in front of me, so this was a real pressure point here.
It is. You never know with people. So how are you doing? How are things these days over at the Mary Sue?
Oh, they're good. They're busy, very busy, more so than I've ever been in my career. But that's good. The site merged earlier this year with our fellow Abrams geek site, Geekosystem, and so we have a larger staff, and we're doing more stuff like science, space, technology stories as well, which we did before, but are trying to do more of now, and especially women in STEM and all that. And yeah, so it's been a really, really busy year, but I'm excited because we're growing so much and more people are learning about us, which is great. And yeah, it's a fun time.
That's really awesome. I didn't know you guys were merging as much. Well, I've seen some, but yeah, merging more into STEM stuff and women, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's there's not a lot out there, obviously, compared to entertainment news, so we're really starting to try, none of us are scientists, obviously. So when we're, doing these stories, we do, the best we can, but we feel it's more interesting to sort of, see who's out there, see who's actually working, in these fields, and see if we can reach out and, make more people aware of them. Because of course there's always the push to get more girls and women into STEM fields. And so, if we can make them known that, yeah, they are there already, don't think they're not, then more people will be inclined to consider that, for their careers as well.
Yeah, it was one of those things that for all of the time that I spend on the internet, you end up in these kind of insular loops, right? Where you don't really expand outside of the several sites that you normally check. And I found someone who was doing, and I can't even remember the context of it now because I was all about it when I saw it, but a woman who was doing STEM centric video blogging, and she was in the industry herself. And I remember thinking oh yeah, this must exist. It's got to, of course, it's out there. But I was so surprised and refreshed by that. So it's really not a thing that ekes its way into my circles of comics and geek news that often, even though it is obviously, pretty geeky.
Right.
So that's really awesome. And it's cool that you guys are moving into that. Yeah, because I've seen you've been hiring a bunch of people and stuff's shifting and changing over there, which
yeah,
is really
we've got
cool.
ton of contributors now, which is great. And we are definitely looking for more of those if people are out there interested in writing about, science and tech and space and all that fun stuff. We definitely would love to hear pitches. So
That's awesome.
there's a link on the bottom of the website for anyone if you're looking for that, that specifically says contributors. So if you want more info, just head on to themarysue.com.
That's so cool. That's really awesome. So one thing I feel like we should talk about first is the She Makes Comics documentary came out like just this week.
It did, yeah.
I haven't watched it yet. Have you?
I have not, no. I've seen just like a couple of clips. We posted one exclusive clip, and I've seen them on other sites, but I haven't had the time to sit down and watch the whole thing. These documentaries are so crazy and cool to me because, I mean, so much work goes into them, and these people who make them spend months and months finding all these people to talk to,
Yeah.
I can't even remember when it was. I want to say it was like the very beginning of the year when I actually did my interviews with them. And so I've been sitting here just anxiously waiting for it to come out so I can see what the finished product is like. But yeah, I'm super, super excited about that because, again, like STEM fields, the people who are outside the geek sphere don't, necessarily think that women are involved in the comic book medium. So it's really great to see such a diverse group of women speaking about their careers and how they've been involved, obviously not just recently, but in the past from the very start of comics.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I spoke to them at Emerald City Comic Con, so it's the same thing where it was like a while ago, and I kind of not forgot about it, but the kind of thing where it's like, oh, so many things have happened since then. And then now that it exists, I'm sort of like, I don't know, I'm scared to watch myself again, but I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, I'm going back to see the kind of people that they talk to, and it's like everybody. It just seems like so many people that they spoke to in this whole documentary about just like women making comics. And it's crazy that can exist. So I thought it'd be really neat to bring that up and talk about it. Just because, yeah, it's great. I mean, I watched a bit of Stripped, which is the other documentary this year that was about comics. And that was, I mean, it's super crazy to watch because it's so many people that I know. Yeah. And seeing your friends in a documentary, and that's a whole new experience. But that was really cool. But you were in another one too, Legends of the Night. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that one was really, really cool to be involved with. Also something that I did ages ago, it feels like now, was even living in another apartment back then. But this guy, Brett Culp, wanted to put together this documentary about Batman, but not, how everyone else approaches Batman as just like, oh, he's the coolest character around, He really wanted to delve into why people have attach themselves to this character, for 75 years and how, he means more to people than just this cool character that we see in comics and TV and the movies. So he spoke to all these people. And for me personally, it was Batman. It was somebody that I had a huge attachment to when I was young because he didn't have superpowers and, he managed to overcome a lot to become the hero that he was. And it just was something that always resonated with me. I'm disabled and I was born with muscular dystrophy. And, there was plenty of times in my life where, I was super down. I wanted to give up. And it sounds, cheesy and silly, but you think, well, Batman doesn't ever give up. He's always keeping the fight going, but the whole project wound up being the most amazing story. I mean, people have to go and order this DVD and buy it for your friends and everything because it seriously, like, there are so many stories. Like, people come up to me and they're like, oh my God, your story was so inspiring. And I'm like, dude, did you see the other people in this documentary? Like, everyone is like amazing. Like, all these stories, people doing charity work and just, people teaching college courses about Batman. And I mean, the expanse of it was just amazing. And it was just a really, really touching piece of film. So I was really, really happy to be a part of that one.
I mean, looking at it now, my roommate has watched this. I mean, he's a Batman fanatic, and I remember him talking about it, and I just hadn't remembered the title. And he was like bowled over and kind of in quite an emotional state after he watched it.
Yeah.
As I can only imagine. I mean, you and I are both so integrated in the day by day craziness of comics culture and you know, everything that's coming out and everything's looked through such a microscope that I find it so refreshing to watch these like really inspiring and like great stories about how superheroes have affected people.
Yeah.
Totally
agree.
Not so much, you know, all the downsides and the bad things that can happen in the world. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, when he was trying to crowdfund it, Brett Culp, I know some people, you know, were like, oh, this is just going to be another Batman documentary, blah, blah, blah. Why should I give it my money, you know? And at the time, like, I didn't know the full extent of it either, but, you know, it wasn't the kind of thing where he was going to talk to, you know, Christopher Nolan or Kevin Smith about, you know, their love of Batman. Like, he was going to just real people across the country. And I think that made it so much more relatable.
Yeah, that's really cool. I definitely want to check that out. Because somehow, one of those things, you know, you hear about something and you don't hear the title, and it just like, of all the wash of things you see in a day.
Yeah.
But that's really cool. And really neat that kind of exists. I love seeing that kind of stuff. I remember seeing a couple of years ago on TV, and this was actually probably closer to like 8 or 9 years ago. There was like a mini... It was while the Harry Potter movies were still coming out. And there was this like mini documentary thing while in the lead up to one of the movies. And it was just like all the sort of different ways that Harry Potter had affected and inspired different people. And I get so teary.
Yeah.
I get so choked up about that stuff.
Well, I mean, it's funny, you know, I mean, I write about this kind of stuff for a living, and there's a lot of times when we're writing about it and we're so passionate about it, whether it's, you know, from a controversy standpoint or not. And a lot of people come on and, you know, comment and they don't get it. Like, it's just a story. It's just this, you know? And it's like, well, I feel really bad for those people because they obviously haven't been touched by some sort of, you know, fictional thing the way that we have, because, you know, it really can mean more than just, oh, that was fun entertainment, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a hard time kind of identifying with people like that who, you know, don't have those crazy, like, deep, you know, woven into your veins loves for something in pop culture.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't, you know, there's parts of Buffy and Harry Potter that I can't talk about without getting choked up, you know, because it's so woven into your life, or like something that just happened at such a particular time in your life where you're just like, you know, you needed that. That's what helped you get through it. So that's really cool. Were there particular Batman stories that were really special to you?
Not really, but that's because I started comics very late in life. I loved superheroes from when I was a child, from, you know, the Superman films, Batman TV show, the Supergirl movie, which a lot of people want to forget, but I will never let them forget because I think it's awesome. So that's where, like, my attachment came from when I was younger, and it wasn't until, I don't know, like 2006, 2007 when I actually started reading the books. So it's interesting to hear other people's, you know, experiences with these characters, and how, yeah, somebody was handed a comic when they were, you know, 7 years old, and boom, that was it, you know?
Yeah.
And for some reason, nobody ever handed me a comic book when I was young, so.
Yeah, all I had was Archie. I mean, that's really funny because that's about the time I started even vague. Like, I didn't even really get into comics until probably closer to 2010.
Yeah.
So it's nice. It's nice to know that somebody else wasn't in this from birth.
Yeah.
But that's really cool. Yeah, being these documentaries is such a weird and interesting thing. But, you know, She Makes Comics was the first one for me. So hopefully there'll be more things like that. I'm
sure. I mean, we have so many people that are creative that we know. So
yep. It's very true. So that's really awesome. So, I mean, at the Mary Sue, I imagine everything keeps you pretty there. But is there anything else or any particular stories or projects that you are working on right now that you're like really psyched about?
I'm not currently working on anything else. I get approached every once in a while to write a book. Oh. And I kind of just have to laugh because there's absolutely zero time in my life to write a book.
I was going to say, I feel like that was maybe something that you would do eventually.
Yeah, no, I would love to. And I've certainly got ideas. But yeah, it's just one of those things that, I mean, I think about the time that I have right now and how, my comic pile is getting to be like the Leaning Tower of Pizza where, any second it's going to go over because I haven't read anything, had time to read anything in months. And I'm like, well, I could do this thing or I could have, a couple hours a day to actually do something that I want to do for myself, Yep.
It's crazy that when comics becomes your job that way, it's so much harder to find time for comics.
Yeah, it really is. And it stinks in that way, like I love what I do and I love being able to write about this kind of stuff for a living. But yeah, it is hard when you take your pure passion for something and turn it into your job, how rough that is, and the same thing for TV too. I have to watch certain shows, ASAP so that, I can be knowledgeable when I'm writing about them the next day, and that sometimes makes the shows less enjoyable because then I'm looking at it with a critical eye. And that's why I sort of try and make time for weird Netflix binges of things so that, it's like, well, I know I'm definitely not going to be writing about this because it's a, older show or whatever. Like right now I'm going through the Gilmore Girls. So that's my different, non-work enjoyment.
I won't let myself start because I have too much to get done, and I know I'll just get lost in Stars Hollow and never come out.
It's terrible. Yesterday, it was like almost 24 hours.
Oh my God.
Which I hadn't watched an episode, and I was like feeling the shakes. Like, I think I'm going to have to just watch one. Like, and then it could tide me over until tomorrow. Like, I know I can't watch 5 of them, but I can watch one.
What season are you in now?
I'm at towards the end of season 4.
Oh, I feel like you're really in the good stuff. Then, yeah. Or because it starts to go real weird towards the end. As far as I can remember.
It's funny. My mom was totally into this show when it was actually airing, and I was in college when it was on. So I think she found a lot of things to find similar between their lives and ours, and I just never picked it up, and she always said, oh, it's so good, but that was in a time when, there was no Netflix, there was no DVR. So it was just like, oh, okay, well, maybe someday, but yeah, I told her I was watching it the other day and she was super excited. So
how is it for the pop culture references now?
It's actually still holding up pretty well.
Good. I wondered about that because it's so rapid fire. Yeah, and
there was a few in there that I was actually surprised, like some Lord of the Rings references and stuff where I was like, oh, wow, okay, But the other cool thing is seeing the people's names that are involved. Like there's so many women involved in, the off-camera stuff as producers and writers. And I saw Jana Spenson's name the other day and I was like, oh my God, I love her.
Every time I see her name on anything, I'm just like, oh, yeah. I'm so glad that you do so much.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. I didn't know that about the show, although I guess it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I want to, but I can't. I can't let myself. When I was staying in LA with my boyfriend, it was like our allowance to watch one of the appendices from the Lord of the Rings extended editions. They're so good. I've never seen them.
Good. Oh my God. Like I live for the extended editions of the Lord of the Rings films. Like
I have never seen the Two Towers or Return of the King extended edition.
Oh my God.
I don't know how.
So good. And I don't know how anyone watches the other version. Like the extended versions are the versions to me, like you shouldn't watch anything else ever.
10 years of my life, I've never known what happened to Saruman. He just disappears. Because I mean, I haven't read the books. I've read The Hobbit, but I hadn't read, The Lord of the Rings. Because because I'm unfortunately I love to read, but I'm very impatient. And once I got to like...
I am the same. I've read The Hobbit, but not The Lord of the Rings.
Once it got to like the 40th page describing a tree and a road, I was like, man, I get it. It's real pretty in the woods. But no, I had never seen it. And it was so funny because I've seen the extended edition of the first one a couple of times. And somehow, like, maybe I just have the first one and not the second two. Like, I have no idea. But it was like, oh my God, I get to see new Lord of the Rings. It was so exciting.
Yeah, the whole Lord of the Rings thing is really interesting because that also happened when I was in college. And one of my friends that I made in college was also a huge nerd, and we were able to geek out over that. And I remember when I think it was the Two Towers, when the first trailer was coming out, I was in her room and we had to wait for it to load on QuickTime on Apple's website because that's what you did back then.
Yes.
And then we just like watched it over and over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually wound up they did like a trilogy day when Return of the King came out.
Yep.
And it was the extended version of the first two and then the first viewing of Return of the King. And you also got a little keepsake to take home that was 3 film cells from the movies.
Cool.
Yeah, it was super, super cool.
Oh, man. I remember, I had friends who went to that, and I didn't go because I had school or I had some obligation where I couldn't go to the 3 movies in a row.
Yeah.
But even when we watched them in LA, it was like we got to the end of the first extended edition and Jeremy was like, well, what do you want to do now? And I was like, well, obviously we're going to watch The Two Towers. And it was so nice to see someone be that attracted to me in that moment. But even after that, I was like, oh, okay, I need a break.
Yeah.
Because they're what, 3.5, almost 4 hours long?
It was a long haul. I remember us sneaking like McDonald's into the theater. Nice. And at that point, like they didn't care because they were like, we know, whatever. The best part of that experience though was when the guy came out to like introduce everything, he was like, okay, now silence your cell phones. And like almost all at the same time, we all just shouted, no, turn them off. Like no one wanted any disruptions whatsoever during this entire thing. It was great. Awesome. I was like, oh, my people.
Yeah, that's so dreamy. I can't. Oh, that's so great. Nothing drives me crazy like people with the cell phones in movie theaters.
Get it.
People who text. What's wrong with you? I don't get it.
Yeah, I have a friend who just will text and I will give her dirty looks because I don't get it, you know? Like anything, like you want to be in that experience. Like if I'm going to pay to see a movie in a theater, like if you're at home, whatever, but like, you know, it's supposed to be an experience. So like, why are you even interrupting yourself to detract from that, you know? And
it's like $16 to go to a movie.
Too. Yeah.
Why would you ignore it? Like, unless you got in for free or you just, I don't understand it. I don't, it's so, nothing drives me crazy like that. So we had a couple of questions on our little Patreon. We kind of let people have first dibs at asking questions for guests. Okay. And there's just a couple if you're cool with that. Sure. This one I don't even know if how you would respond to it, but somebody named Zane, which is great, said, question for Jill. I'm going to do this really officially. If you could describe the Mary Sue in a sentence, what would it be? In a sentence? I know. That seems like a lot to ask.
Yeah, like even our About Us page is like 3 paragraphs, I think.
I don't even think I could describe the Mary Sue in a sentence.
Yeah, that is tough. I mean, it might be a little run-on. Let's see. The Mary Sue is a geeky pop culture destination looking to expand the horizons of geeks and non-geeks alike on our favorite things and social issues.
That was pretty good.
I sort of like faltered in the middle there. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish.
No, I think you got it. I think I could not repeat it if I tried, but but very.
I'll have to transcribe that bit.
Yeah, we'll have to go back through. There's one other question from Amelia. Not everyone has a last name on the Patreon. It's a fun thing.
That's fine.
But she says to Jill Pantozzi, she's very formal. What has been your favorite recent article or interview with Mary Sue? I know playing favorites is probably hard.
Yeah. Well, okay. If I had to say favorite interview, it would be not one that I did. I haven't done an interview in a while, but Sam Maggs interviewed the Batgirl creative team sort of recently. And I thought she had a real fun interview with them. As far as my post, I really enjoyed writing about J.K. Rowling's. She said that she regretted killing one of the Harry Potter characters, and it turned out to be like a theoretical throwaway character, not one of the ones that really meant something to fans.
She likes her clickbait, I gotta tell you.
She does, I mean, God love her, but yeah, so she said, and it was just, it made me laugh because like I, obviously went in expecting something huge and it wasn't. So it was a half-heartedly mean post that I wrote, how dare she and such, and and I like being able to do that, because sometimes we have to write very serious things, sometimes it's very silly things, but sometimes it's a mix of both, so that was really, really fun. And I really now want to reread all the Harry Potter books, which again, I don't have time for.
Oh, I don't either. And I feel exactly the same way. I'm, we spent a lot of time rewatching movies we had already seen when I was in LA. It's a great use of. Actually, no, I don't regret a thing. It was wonderful. We like the first night I got there, I'm like, so what are we watching first? Is it Fellowship of the Ring or Prisoner of Azkaban? And Fellowship, I think, came first, and then Prisoner of Azkaban was a couple nights later. But rewatching that and then rewatching the first one, and I hadn't seen the first Harry Potter movie in a really long time. Yeah. And yeah, there's so many things that I'm like, I haven't read those books in years. And I'm, again, like you, have these piles and piles and piles of comics that I need to get through. So it feels so guilty to pick up anything else. So, I mean, that's a pretty interesting question because it's different, I think, for everybody. So I'm sure you pick up a ton of stuff all the time. But what are your comics that when they come out, like, even though you're crazy busy, you will always read them? Or it's like the thing that you will go to even though you have a stack of like 20 things?
Oh, man. Well, Saga is definitely on there, which is funny because Saga is the kind of thing that I would normally want to pick up and trade. Yeah. But it's so good that I can't even wait for trade. Like, it's just like, no, I need my fix of Saga right now.
I don't understand the people who have the self-control to wait 6 months for Saga.
No. I mean, I guess it's a little different if you're not online all the time and seeing different stories and this and that, but yeah, definitely that. Now that it's over, but Lock and Key was definitely one of those for me.
Well, yeah, plus you'd have to wait like 2 months between issues. So.
Yeah. And then what else? The Unwritten from Vertigo.
I still have not made it through that.
Oh, I love that one so much because like it's basically Harry Potter for adults, and like, that's the sort of cliquey thing to say, but it really is. It's telling the story of, this guy who his father wrote, the Harry Potter-like books, and he theoretically is the main character in the books. Turns out he really is this character who has magic and all this other stuff, and it's great to see that sort of story play out, but in an entirely different way,
That's really, yeah, I mean, it's not just you. Like, that's the general elevator pitch for Unwritten. Yeah. And I'd heard that before. And always, like, I pick it up every once in a while because I love those covers so much. But yeah.
The other issue with that one is that, I mean, I've read a lot, but that book has a huge thing about referencing other literary works, and sometimes I have no clue what book they're referencing, and I feel kind of stupid, but that's how it goes.
This is my problem with a lot of comics that I hate. Like, it took me so long to get through Sandman because I was just like, I I don't know what this is talking about.
Yeah.
It's like 14th century folklore reference. Like, Neil, I don't get it. But no, it's you power through. But is anything else coming other than...
As far as like superhero stuff, definitely Batman and Detective Comics. Like Scott Snyder has just been so good on that, and it like his stuff is always, he plays out a long game, and I love that. He totally, like, some books you read and you're like, they don't really know where they're going with this, they're just sort of going issue to issue, but he always has this like grand scheme, and I love it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Everything else, just I try to do things in the order they came out, obviously, and then I usually, to not pick favorites, go in alphabetical order.
Yeah, that's probably smart. Yeah. I generally I make two piles, one of like the mature comics, so my Image and the occasional superhero comics, and then like Adventure Time and Bob's Burgers and Steven Universe in this other pile, and I go like shot for shot. So I'll read Witches and then like, Steven Universe, and then go back to
cute.
Wicked and the Divine, and then read Adventure Time. It's great. Really, really keeps you on your toes. So I mean, it's holiday time this time of year. Are you a person who gives? Are you a comic gifter?
I am, yes. Not so much to family members who I know aren't, really into that.
Yeah.
But my nieces, for sure. I give them stuff that is, age appropriate. This year, my niece just turned 13. We share a birthday. And so I, as well as getting her an Adventure Time trade and a My Little Pony trade, getting her Anya's Ghost. Yes. So I'm very excited to see what her reaction to that is.
That's so good.
Yeah.
We just recorded the first part of the episode where I gave a bunch of like, hey, if you have an all ages person in your life, here's what you should buy them. And Anya's Ghost obviously is in there.
Perfect.
It's so good.
I bought my mom Mouse Guard in the past, which I also suggest as an all ages one.
Yeah, Mouse Guard's great.
Which is really, really great. And one that is a serious but really, really great story. It's been out a few years now, and it's from Archaea. It's an elegy for Amelia Johnson by Andrew Roston, and it is about a woman who has terminal cancer, and she basically enlists two of her friends to go across the country giving her last messages to her friends who she's not, going to be able to see before she passes. And it's just a really, really well done book, and a tearjerker for sure, but just really, really heartfelt, and I would definitely recommend that one too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I always like to ask people, because everybody's got different like go-to gift books. I mean, I keep giving Sex Criminals to people, but
maybe not good for everyone.
But not good for everyone. No, I'm real. When I went to the Miami Book Fair, I met a couple of different like all ages comics creators, and that was really cool, because I mostly just go from our collection at my comic shop, but yeah, it's really, it feels like the market for all ages comics is growing a lot, and that makes me really happy, because hopefully it continues to do so, not just the graphic novels, but with like single issue comics, which seems the single issue comics for kids thing is like almost a lost thing that I feel like is sort of clawing its way back.
Yeah.
So that's exciting, but
I'm excited too, because my niece, whether it was through I don't want to take credit giving her comics or whatever, but she has a real passion for drawing now, and every once in a while she'll text me a photo of something she's drawn, and she's really, really good. So I'm hoping that maybe she takes some of that into a career path. But it was funny because she sent me a photo that she drew of Wonder Woman the other day, and I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's really good. And then I casually was like, you know what that costume needs? Some straps.
You can't help it. You can't help it.
It doesn't turn off. I don't know.
God, I had a girl who came up to me at New York Comic Con, and she was a younger girl who was drawing a bunch of superhero stuff, and she was pretty good, but she was like 12 or something, and all her superheroines had the most enormous and like ridiculous boobs I've ever seen. And I was just like, I don't, she's showing it to me and she's just like, what do you think? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I don't know what to tell you here. Like maybe she should have some more support in that shirt. It was really weird. It was a really weird experience. But at least she was drawing. So that was cool. So, I mean, briefly, I'm going to ask you, before we sort of head toward the end of the show. So I'm not, and you brought it up before, but I'm not really watching any of like Gotham or The Flash.
Oh, yeah.
So are you doing recaps for The Flash?
Not doing recaps for them. We cut down some on recasts because they are so time intensive, and they're just not worth it for as many people that are reading them. Right. So we'll do like open threads where we give a little gist of what happened in the episode, and then let everyone sort of comment. And then if we have time during the day, we'll pop in and comment and give our opinions on them. Right. But it's exciting to me that there are so many comic book shows out there now. It's crazy.
Yeah, I the one that I'm hearing the best things about is The Flash.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that one.
I've got to check. Well, I mean, I hadn't heard anything about it, and then there was, an episode where the dude wore a Catbug shirt.
Yes, that was amazing. I like screamed when it came on screen.
That was really cool.
Yeah, they have a really good sense of humor about them, and the show as a whole, especially when you compare it to something like Arrow, which once in a while will be jokey and whatever. Yeah. This is the hero that enjoys being a hero and, gets a thrill out of being a hero. And so compared to all these, dark adaptations that we're getting these days, it's nice to see just a joyful superhero story. And that's, I think, is what's making it stand out, among the crowd. And the cast is really, really good too. I got to speak to them at San Diego Comic-Con this past summer, and they're all just like super passionate about it and just love what they're doing. And also like are all about diversity too, which is like great. It was something that came up during the interviews, and they totally, made a conscious effort for that. So that was really cool.
Oh, that's really awesome. Yeah, Jason out here in the studio is like fist pumping about The Flash. He loves The Flash. All right, I gotta check it out because I've seen so many things for because it's Arrow, it's Constantine, it's Gotham. Are those the big ones?
Oh gosh, that's all the big ones. Yeah.
Yeah, and nothing has like really stuck out to me. Have you been? You've been watching Gotham?
I watched all of Gotham. I watched all of Constantine. I'm definitely not into Gotham, but I also can't stop watching it, which is kind of weird. And maybe just to see how other weird things they could do. It's just like the concept as a whole was so weird to me, especially when you had something like Gotham Central as a book that would have been so great to see on screen.
Yeah.
And all the throwing all the villains in, and it's very weird to me. So I watch it to see what happens basically now. And I'm hoping that they sort of, for the second half, maybe have taken a few criticisms to heart, but we'll see. But yeah, and Constantine, I like better. I enjoy it, but I feel they could do so much more with that one. Like they're keeping it very like villain of the week, blah, blah, blah kind of thing. And every once in a while you'll have really neat, Easter eggs, from the comics, which is great. And Matt Ryan is just like a perfect Constantine to me. He's doing a great job at it. But yeah, I think they can definitely do more with that one.
Cool. Yeah, it's one of those things that they've just all kind of, once I hadn't watched Arrow, I sort of just let them all pass me by. But I gotta give them a try. I want to feel like I'm at least covering all of my comic bases in some way or another. And since I'm barely reading superhero comics right now, It would be nice to have something.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh, I forgot about Walking Dead. Walking Dead's still on, but I'm not watching that one anymore.
Yeah, I stopped watching that one a while ago. It's so hopeless. I can't. It's the thing I say all the time where it was like I stopped reading the books because when I was reading them, I was also reading Why the Last Man.
Oh.
And I only had the mental space for one post-apocalyptic story. And Why the Last Man at least felt like there was hope.
Yeah.
You know, and it really, I mean, it's obviously a wonderful book and it totally paid off, especially as I got further into the series. But yeah, I can't jam with The Walking Dead. I wish I could. I wish I could be part of that.
Yeah.
So Jill, do you know at all what conventions you're going to be at next year?
Oh God, I have zero idea at this point, which is terrible because I wish I had some like set up. I was thinking of trying to hit Emerald City because I didn't. I know. I love that show.
It's the greatest.
And I didn't get to go last year because of other scheduling things. So that's a maybe. C2E2 is a maybe. Comic-Con is probably maybe.
I feel bad for putting you on the spot here.
I was like overworked at San Diego last year. So like even thinking about it makes me want to curl up into a ball. But I wish I could go to more conventions as a fan. Like
yes,
if
it's
I'm
a lot
going,
more fun.
Yeah, I'm sort of expected to be working, and that stinks. So if I can find one to go to just as a fan this year, I definitely will.
Yeah, I'm really into that. It's that and like going to more European shows because I've been totally spoiled, and now that I know how amazing they are, it's like all I want to do.
That I would love to do. That I would love to do.
They're amazing. So good. Dice was so good. I'm going to go to Thought Bubble this year, I'm pretty sure.
If they invited me, I would go. But
it is pretty far.
A trip to make, yeah.
Yeah, Thought Bubble takes some saving up. I couldn't make it work this year, but I'm hoping to do it next year. It was just one of those, like, I kept waiting and I kept waiting and I kept waiting, and then I was like, plane tickets are $1,000.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
But no, I'm gonna try and make it work this year because everyone says it's just the best. So that would be really cool. And I can't. Yeah, New York Comic Con kind of destroyed me this year, and I mean, you saw me.
Yeah. Oh no.
Talk.
Yeah. I know. It was insane at New York Comic Con this year.
It's always so funny when
that show is getting so much bigger. It's disgusting.
Yes. Oh, it's terrifying. And yet Emerald City was like almost as big, and yet it somehow felt so much more manageable.
Yeah. I just wish that there was more space to be had at the Javits. Like, they're so confined in that building. It's just unfortunate. And also unfortunate is there's like nothing else in the New York area that could fit, that kind of show.
Oh, so. Nothing. Unless you did it in the water. Like, there's nowhere to go.
Let's just get a bunch of, like, rafts and
islands.
then, like, little things to connect them. Yeah.
Do it like they did the World's Fair in Montreal, where they just built islands out of the tunnels because they had nowhere to put it.
You can go all the way out to the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. Like,
be awesome.
Perfect.
Get the cast of X-Men out there. There's a total PR opportunity. Yeah. Come on. Hugh Jackman up there? It'd be great.
One day it'll happen. We're joking about it now. It'll happen.
Well, Comic-Con's gonna need its own island eventually.
Yeah.
You know it's coming. Its own country. God, that'd be awful. Maybe at least there would be bathrooms you could get to.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be a little like Jurassic Park, You get in there and then all of a sudden all breaks loose.
Oh God. Oh, that'd be awful. Oh. Well, all right. Well, normally I end it with comic recommendations, but we kind of already went through that bit. So Jill, if people want to find you online, it's themarysue.com, yes?
Yes, themarysue.com. And I'm on Twitter, Jill Pantozzi, JillPantozzi.
Perfect. And anywhere else online that we would want to stalk
I'm
you?
on Instagram and Facebook and all that, but if you can get to everything from my Twitter, that's the easiest.
That's the port.
Yeah. I have my old blog, thenerdybird.com, too, but it hasn't been updated in over a year, and it's super depressing because some of my Google images got deleted, so there's just like little blank things in some of the spots now. It's very sad.
It's so sad when the internet dies.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me, Jill. And
Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to see what the Mary Sue is going to change and become this year. And hopefully you continue on your well-established path to world domination and destroying the patriarchy. As I hope for all people. Destroy the patriarchy this Christmas. Thank you so much, Jill.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I know that you want into the pages inside my heart.
Well, that's our show. I'm off to, Christmas. Not doing too much traveling until I run back to the West Coast to escape the winter in early January, but no cons clear through until March, and ain't that a blessing. I hope that you all have wonderful holidays or non-holidays or, hibernation or whatever it is that you do. I hope it's great. In the meantime, while you wait for the next episode, if you wouldn't mind, you could rate and review us on iTunes. That would be a lovely present. You can do it on Stitcher too. And if you like the show and you want to keep us from, getting lumps of coal for Christmas, you can go to our Patreon. It's at patreon.com/lessthanlive, where you can contribute to a monthly donation. There are all kinds of really cool incentives, like me sending you voice messages or video messages. I talked about it a bit before, but I thought I'd remind you, because who knows, maybe you fell asleep. Anyway, if you need to find us in the meantime, you can do so on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at LTLcast, and you can get the show notes after each episode airs at lessthanlivecast.tumblr.com, where we have a much more accessible list of all of the titles that I ramble through very quickly. Enjoy the new year. We'll be back. We'll be doing more. Things will be changing and getting better and more interesting all of the time, I like to believe. Happy holidays, everybody. I'll miss you.
Ho, ho, ho.
Hey, Amnesia Forgetful Face. This was a Village Soundcast Network original production.
I feel like I just got asked to prom by, Jesus. I don't know if I would want to go as Jesus. He wears sandals.